As some of you might already know, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 had a shockingly awful $180,000 opening day in Japan. That's right, Sonic's latest movie massively flopped in the very country that created him. This is especially crazy when you consider how much Paramount tried to appeal to Japanese audiences this time around. They gave the movie a special Japanese title, Sonic X Shadow Tokyo Mission, and Tokyo is featured prominently in the storyline. Paramount even collaborated with One OK Rock, an extremely popular Japanese rock band, on the movie's theme song and promotion. They pulled out all the stops to make Sonic 3 a huge event in Japan, and yet it completely tanked. $180,000 opening day. But honestly, maybe we shouldn't be so surprised because the truth is, Sonic has always struggled to connect with audiences in his homeland. A lot of that comes down to some core elements of his design and personality. I mean, just look at Sonic's color scheme. Red, white, and blue. Remind you of any particular flag? Yep, it's based on the Star-Spangled Banner, because Sonic was tailor-made to appeal to American audiences. His whole vibe was inspired by American pop culture icons like Michael Jackson. That today, that brash coolness, it clashes hard with the more humble and approachable qualities Japanese audiences tend to prefer in their mascot characters, like Mario and Pikachu, who radiate this neighborly warmth. So really, Sonic was kind of set up from the start to be this fish out of water in his own country. He just doesn't tap into the cultural wavelength there the way he managed to in the West. But it goes even deeper than that, so let's rewind the clock and take a look at how this blue blur got lost in translation. To really understand Sonic's plight, we have to go back to the early 90s console wars between Sega and Nintendo. In Japan, Sega's Mega Drive, known as the Genesis in the West, was getting absolutely trounced by Nintendo's Super Famicom, which is the Japanese version of our Super Nintendo. It sold a staggering 17 million units in Japan. The Mega Drive? A paltry 3 million. That's less than a fifth of Nintendo's numbers. Sega was just getting destroyed on their home turf. And this disparity played out in stark terms when it came to Sonic 2's sales. Worldwide, Sonic 2 was a smash hit, selling 7 million copies. But in Japan, a measly 260,000. Sonic couldn't get any traction. Now, here's where it gets really weird. Sega of Japan made the puzzling decision to not release arcade ports of Sonic 1 and 2 in Japan, even though Sega branches in other countries were doing it. It's like they weren't even trying to promote their flagship franchise at home. Despite Sonic's rocky start in Japan, Sega made some notable attempts to turn the tide and make the blue blur more appealing to Japanese audiences. Sadly, these efforts often fell short or even backfired. One of the most significant pushes was the Sonic X anime series, launched in the early 2000s. Sega clearly aimed to boost Sonic's popularity in Japan with this show. They brought in some serious star power, like having Hironobu Kageyama, known for his work on Dragon Ball Z, perform the theme song. They even introduced a new character, Chris Thorndike, specifically designed to resonate with Japanese children dealing with issues like parents too busy with work to spend time with them. However, Sonic X utterly failed to capture the hearts of Japanese viewers. The show's ratings plummeted so disastrously that the entire third season, the Metarex Saga, never even aired in Japan. It's a painful parallel to the Sonic OVA released way back in 1996, which was intended as a pilot for a potential anime series starring classic Sonic. That flopped too. Ironically, Sonic X went on to become a massive hit in the West, once again highlighting the stark divide between Sonic's reception in Japan versus other countries. More recently, the Sonic movie franchise has also struggled mightily in Japan, despite huge global success. The first two movies barely scraped together $3 million combined at the Japanese box office. In 2022, something remarkable happened. After decades of failing to fully connect with Japanese players, Sonic Team finally struck gold with Sonic Frontiers. This open-zone platformer became a breakout hit in Japan, resonating with audiences there like no Sonic game had in years. So, what made Frontiers different? How did it succeed where so many other Sonic games and media had failed? The key lies in how Frontiers intelligently incorporated elements from Japanese games and culture that were already widely beloved. Take the game's open-world design, for example. Many fans and critics instantly drew comparisons to Nintendo's masterpiece, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. By adopting a similar expansive, free-form structure, Frontiers tapped into the zeitgeist of the moment and delivered an experience Japanese players were primed to enjoy. The game's awe-inspiring Titan boss battles also garnered attention for evoking the larger-than-life clashes and spectacle of the legendary anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. This connection was further solidified by the casting of Megumi Hayashibara, famous for her portrayal of Evangelion's Rei Ayanami, as the voice of Sage in the Japanese version of Frontiers. For many players, this kind of star power and homage to a beloved franchise helped Frontiers feel more culturally relevant and exciting. Sega also smartly leveraged strategic partnerships to build buzz around the game. For instance, they sponsored Korone, an immensely popular VTuber in Japan, to play through Sonic games on her streams. This exposed the franchise to a wider audience and helped generate positive word of mouth. Similarly, a collaboration with Capcom's Monster Hunter series, which is a massive hit in Japan. Throughout the game, Sonic Team took care to weave in cultural touchstones, like the inclusion of a Japanese rock band on the soundtrack, that made Frontiers feel more authentic and attuned to Japanese sensibilities. All these elements came together to create an experience that, at long last, truly resonated with players in Sonic's homeland. Frontiers' triumph tells the importance of deeply integrating Japanese cultural influences and design sensibilities into the core of the Sonic experience. Rather than superficial nods or marketing tactics, the game's success stemmed from its fundamental alignment with Japanese gaming tastes and trends. This suggests that for Sonic to truly connect with Japanese audiences, Sega must prioritize authentic cultural resonance at the heart of their creative process. Moving forward, Sega faces the complex task of balancing Sonic's global appeal with the specific cultural nuances necessary for success in Japan. They must find ways to create experiences that feel authentically Japanese, while still maintaining the core essence of the Sonic brand that has captivated audiences worldwide. This may require a more tailored approach, developing Japan-specific Sonic content that deeply resonates with local preferences alongside the more globally oriented mainline releases. By studying what worked in that game, the strategic integration of beloved Japanese IP, the involvement of iconic Japanese talent, the adherence to popular game design trends, Sega can start to craft a blueprint for Sonic's future in his homeland. They might explore more collaborations with renowned Japanese creators, draw inspiration from classic anime and manga, or even develop Japan-exclusive Sonic titles that cater directly to that audience's unique tastes. As Sonic speeds ahead into an uncertain future in Japan, fans and industry watchers alike will be eagerly monitoring Sega's next moves. Will they build on the momentum of Frontiers and finally crack the code of Japanese Sonic success? Or will the Blue Blur continue to struggle in his homeland, a perpetual outsider despite his best efforts? The answers to these questions may well shape the course of this iconic franchise for years to come.